Hi guys, I'm Jiaxin and welcome to the first episode of our YouTube channel. The reason why we started this YouTube channel is because people often comment that they do not understand the lingo, the legal process or the law. Therefore, this YouTube channel is dedicated to explaining the law and the lingo in bite-sized and digestible content for you guys. The first few episodes of our YouTube channel will touch on the area of construction law. In particular, the first episode today will be talking about construction contracts. As we all know, construction contracts is the backbone of a successful project. It defines the obligations and provides certainty to the parties. We'll explore three issues of construction contracts today. First, the key components of a construction contract. Second, the various types of construction contracts. And third, some tips for you when you are negotiating the contracts. Let's start by looking at the typical parties in a construction project. In a construction project, there are many parties involved, and typically the construction contracts will involve the developer, the main contractor, the various subcontractors and specialist subcontractors, as well as the professionals such as the architects and the engineers. Construction contracts typically refer to the plans, the drawings, and the specifications when defining the scope of work. The second key component is the price and the payment milestones. Establishing a fair and reasonable price is critical to a successful project. The payment milestones is also a critical term as it defines when the payment should be made. In our next episode, we'll also be talking about the Building and Construction Industry Security of Payment Act, which is also known as the SOPA, which is an act that deals with timely payments to subcontractors in construction projects. The third component would be the timeline and milestones. The typical dates that should be set out in a construction contract would be your commencement date and the completion date. You may also wish to consider providing for a mechanism for an extension of time in case there are unforeseen circumstances. There are many types of construction contracts in a project. However, for today's episode, we'll be discussing three different construction contracts for contractors. The first and probably the most common type of contract would be your lump sum contracts. This typically involves the agreed scope of work for an agreed price to be undertaken by the contractor. The second type of contract would be your measurement contract. This involves an agreed rate for certain types of work to be done by the contractor. Ultimately, the price to be paid to the contractor will be dependent on the quantities that are installed by the contractor on site. The third type of construction contract would be your cost plus contract. This involves an agreed rate or price over and above the cost price of the materials and labor incurred by the contractor. Naturally, for this type of contracts, you will expect a budget and a very close monitoring of the expenses involved in the project. For today's episode, we'll give you three tips to take away when you are negotiating or drafting a contract. The first will be to avoid vague and ambiguous terms. Instead, you should opt for clear and precise language when drafting a contract. The second is whenever there are changes to the terms of the contract, such changes should be documented between the parties. Third, even if there's little room for negotiation between the parties, you should consult a lawyer and seek legal advice on the legal risks involved in undertaking the project. Finally, it's critical to review all the terms and conditions in a construction contract. Once an agreement has been reached, parties are bound to all the terms set out in the contract, regardless whether they are aware of the terms. In conclusion, a well-drafted construction contract is critical to ensure success in a construction project. If you are embarking on a construction project, please do not hesitate to seek legal advice and understand the legal risks involved in undertaking the project. That's all for today, and we'll see you in our next episode.